Hello, welcome to reading sprints, writing sprints, whatever you want to call them, sprints. Not used to doing them on a Saturday, so it's nice to be joined by Lauren from Happy Haunts Library. We can't normally do them together midweek, can we? Because the time difference is just not ever going to work. But
yeah, I think it's like I'm like maybe I'm in the middle of my work day when you're on, and I think it might be your evening time when that's happening.
Yeah, so I think we an 8-hour time difference, I think, because it's 7:30 p.m. here and then 11:30 a.m. for you.
Yes, yeah, very different.
So it's not very compatible, is it? Unless it's a weekend. So I'm glad we've actually managed to come face to face. It doesn't happen often enough. So what's the weather like where you are? Importantly, it's starting to feel like winter here.
Yes, same. So I have like my two big windows here, and before we went live, it was raining, pretty like not like pouring, but like consistent enough for me to be able to see it. And then it stopped. So I hope it starts again because I'm going nowhere today, and rain is always nice when you don't have to leave your house.
Yeah, it is that kind of atmospheric, cozy reading feeling. So you're planning to read this evening, I take, or this morning for you?
Yes, yeah, I have an anthology. I've been like really into this like other audiobooks that kind of took a lot of my energy and my attention, but this one it's a new release
Ooh.
anthology edited by Circe let's see, Moskowitz. This is a YA Black horror anthology, and it's called All These Sunken Souls. I think I'm like a third of the way into it, and I really like it. I've been into short stories recently, and I'm enjoying them, which is shocking because there's one author in here I haven't cared for a lot of their work, but I really like the story in here. So I'm like, okay, this is good. So I'm really liking it.
Yeah, I've been quite into anthologies lately. I don't know whether it counts anthology, but you know the creature feature thing on Amazon? Have you seen that? Where it's like, I think they're more novellas than short stories. And I really enjoyed most of those. I thought they were cool. I think there were 6 of them, and some of them were authors that I've read before, like Joe Hill and Grady Hendrix, and then others were authors I'd never heard of. So it was good because I feel like I discovered some new people and kind of reaffirmed, like Joe Hill, I haven't read any of his books for ages, and it just reminded me I need to pick up some more Joe Hill books.
Did you like the Grady Hendrix one?
It's not my favorite thing that he's written. I thought it was like an okay story, but not. As I tried to review it today on my YouTube, and I was like, what was it about? Like, it didn't feel. I didn't feel it was bad, but it didn't feel super memorable to me. How about you?
I actively disliked it.
Okay.
It just seems so not him. Like he's more like funny, silly, and like bizarre and like weird, but like there's always like some sentimental like undercurrent to it where like you really care about the characters and there's like some odd stuff happening and it's like kind of funny and comical and slapstick, but that short story just felt like so not him in terms of like the writing he's shown us so far. So I was kind of disappointed. I thought that everything up until I don't want to say what point, but like it felt like it was just like 2 different things. And then the ending was just like this quick random thing. I don't know. I was very disappointed.
I think that's the problem when it's a favorite, isn't it? I've never read any Paul Tremblay stuff before. It was the first one. And I have to say, I'm not a big fan of eco horror. So I finished it feeling a bit like, eco horror scares me too much. Like I think too much about the end of the world when I'm reading it. So I just can't cope. So it just made me feel like uncomfortable and not in a way that I wanted to. Probably need to read something else that isn't eco horror to maybe compare it to.
Yeah, I only read the Grady Hendrix one. That was like the one I really wanted. And because I was so disappointed, I'm like, nope, I'm not even going into any of these.
Do you know what? I liked them all. I liked something about all of them. Some of them, like one relied on a twist that I figured out earlier on. So I think it would have been really impactful if I'd not figured the twist out, but it was still fun. But I found the Joe Hill one really creepy. It tapped into a couple of things that I find really disturbing, and it had like a nice angle that I didn't expect from it. I quite like with short stories and novellas as well that the authors don't seem as attached to the characters. So I feel like often it can have like a nice little sting where you go, whoa, they did that to the main character. Okay, like quite a few of them had little things that it felt like they really put the characters through their paces, and I think that's good.
Oh, that's actually a really good point. Would you ever do like like a short story or like novella, like a prequel, or like some like I know there's like a series I really enjoy, like the Warm Bodies series, where they will
Mm.
have like, you know, those core novels. I think there's like 3 of them, and then there'll be like a prequel novella, and then like kind of add in some like short things. Would you ever do that for like the Mina universe?
Do you know what? I did have an idea about writing short stories because there's lots of little things that like I allude to. Like there's one scene that got cut where I won't talk about it because it's kind of a big spoiler, but it was 2 characters in the first book that you didn't realize knew each other, like bad characters. And I wrote the scene where they met each other and I really liked it, but I realized I was like, I can't include this because it kind of
Can
ruins
we
everything.
get a Mina? Let's get a Mina short story anthology. It's kind of like what Charlene Harris does with the Sookie
Yeah.
Stackhouse novels. Do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I'd like to be, I mean, maybe when I'm a bit bigger and like more people, like the amount of people reading the Suki books, maybe. I would like to do it. Whether anybody would publish it for me is another matter. But yeah, because there's a few things like that, little stories, like Della casually mentions how she gets involved in the Slayers. I don't think that's too big a spoiler, but there's kind of a whole story to that that I know in my head that I'd quite like to tell.
Oh
So yeah, maybe that one.
yeah. Like the Slayers too, like maybe talking about parents of a lot of the people that we get to know really,
Mm.
really well, like their lives and their kind of like the things that are alluded to. That'd be really fascinating.
Yeah, and also the fact that there's like an older generation of Slayers. So whether like when they were young, like I didn't know what decade that would be. My maths is so bad. Like maybe it'd be like the 60s or 70s or something. So that would be pretty good. I don't know, maybe one day. It is in the back of my mind, but I
Okay.
also have 1,000 other things I want to write, and like
Yeah.
it all relies on a publisher wanting to buy it. So that's the problem. Like I would just keep writing stuff that I wanted to forever, but I've also got to try and like get it published. So, what are you planning to read tonight? We've obviously both been delving into the creature feature lately, but oh no, you did you just mention what
Yeah.
you? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So this
Oh, you did
one,
tell us the anthology. Sorry, you did. You got
yeah.
us onto the anthology discussion.
And then I also did have an audiobook because I might be doing some like chores or whatever, dishes. So there's one that just came out that I'm trying to read before I get like too wintry. It's called Field of Screams. It just came out. It's
Ooh,
YA and it's by Wendy Paris. And it's set within like a cornfield. Like the cover is just so cool, and it was like a total cover download for
that's
me.
very cool. Yeah, I feel like I've seen that on somebody. Maybe Kasha or somebody was talking about that. But yeah, I the cover and the title instantly. I was like, sold. I need this book. Is it a bit
Yes, so
Clown
there's
in
a
the Cornfield then, but minus clowns
I
maybe?
yeah, I think so. There is definitely like it's juvenile fiction, so maybe it's middle grade actually. And I'm learning like fantasy, suspense. It's kind of like their version comparable to like horror. So there is a cornfield setting, and I think it's like paranormal, ghost haunting, family
Mm.
stuff that this kid, Rebecca, is dealing with in Iowa. So
It was
I'm excited.
Kasha's.
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
As I was looking at that cover, I was like, this looks familiar. I do this when I see, I don't know whether you do when you watch BookTubers, like it all kind of blends in, and then I can't remember
Oh
who's read
yes.
what and who's recommended what to me. Because we all read quite similar books, I think. Like the people I follow, I tend to be the ones who like the same books I do. Hi Kay. Just gonna jump into the comments since I just about Cash has come up. Hello, everybody. Oh, I'm so glad. That's the book that we're reading for Y Book Club this month. I would flash the cover, but I tried to find it earlier to do a video. And you know when you desperately need a book, you just can't find it anywhere. So it's somewhere in
Always.
my house. I've read it before and it's really good, but I'm sort of in the process of
Has
rereading.
werewolves in it. That's cool.
Yeah, werewolves and vampires and like just kind of cute, can't speak, cute, cozy, like, you know, the fan family type relationships, and then also a nice tight knit sister thing. So actually some kind of similarities to Mina in a way, like the sister relationship and then the fan family built around that. Yeah, I really liked it. It's really fun. I read it a while ago though, because I
Ooh.
read a proof. I think it came out last spooky season, like not proof earlier that year. So it's been ages since I've read it.
Okay, well, the Goodreads reviews are like getting me. One person said, think Buffy meets the Scooby-Doo gang with Sapphic rep. And then there's like a section where Goodreads always has books where readers have also enjoyed. And Mina and the Slayers is
Oh,
connected to
really?
this.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I love it when that happens when I go to look on a book and then my book's recommended too. It's the best. I think Adam Silver not Adam Silvera, Adam Caesar. I always get those two mixed up. Adam Caesar's books and mine tend to be on stuff together, and it makes me really
I
happy.
can see that. I can see
He
that.
sold quite a few more copies than me, but that's fine. I don't begrudge Adam Caesar. I am reading this book. I keep wanting to call it Dead Heart, but that's just a thing on the front. It's CJ Tudor's new book, The Gathering, which is her vampire book. It's got vampires in it. And it's one of those books where, like, they know that vampires are real in the world. Like, vampires are kind of living on these colonies, and it's illegal to call them like they're some kind of creature. But there's been a murder in a small town in Alaska, and they're trying to figure out is a vampire, because if it is a vampire, then the authorities are allowed to kind of do a vampire call in the area. So it's this whole, like, I think it's going to have this sort of human rights and are vampires classed as people in this world? And also I got this really cute bookmark from, have you seen Sinister Signs before? They do, I don't know if you can see it. They do like
so
really
cute.
Cool 3D printed stuff, and they did these like witch. I bought them these witch claws that they're like this on my bookshelves. They're really nice. And I think they 3D print everything. It's all amazing what I've ordered. But I have to get really hard wearing bookmarks because there's a small person in my house who pulls them out of my books and they tend to up again. So I showed him it tonight, and I was like, "What do you think of that one?" He sort of immediately went like that and went, "Oh, I can't pull anything off this one or bend it," and gave it back to me. So, and also he can't read, so he didn't know that it said vampire. So there was no appeal from this one particular bit.
It's so cute though. I love it.
Yeah, they made so the girl who makes them read Mina and the Slayers, and she made me like an exclusive Slayer one too that I've got upstairs, and I don't think they've made any others of those. I need to put it on my social media actually. It's really gorgeous. I felt a bit emotional when she sent me it. I was like, oh my god, people making stuff linked to my book. I never get over that. Yeah, it's a very weird feeling to think that people read stuff I've written. It still hasn't quite sunk in. I know that it happens, and I've seen my books in bookshops, so it must be happening. But yeah, it's very nice. Have you done any writing? So no, did you say a little while ago that you were thinking about it, but teaching kind of isn't really conducive to writing, is it?
Oh, yeah, no. You're somebody that has had that experience in education. So yeah, I wouldn't be interested necessarily in writing because I feel like the writing I do is more like argumentative or more like historical, like monographs, those kind of things. So I do like writing, just more like in a nonfiction sense.
Yeah. Do you think you could write like a nonfiction book one day? I would love to, but I'd have to find like a really unique slant on a subject, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I'd be like kind of really niche, I feel. Something like that. But
I think a lot of the common things are what I'm interested in, like cults and true crime and vampires. And I know a lot of it's been done. But if you've got like an angle, like I've got a book that's like a British history of vampires that I still need to read actually. And it'd be that kind of thing. I think it'd have to be like something like my own slant on or something like some of my experience putting an angle on it. But I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, I have to wait for my muse to come down and give me my inspiration. When that's also another thing too.
Have you had a little bit more headspace, like being out teaching?
Yeah, a little bit more. And like the ideas, I feel like you have like an idea, but I feel like it's like you need that time to like really sit with it and like flesh it out. And I also think I'm like the ways that I feel like I still can't understand like how writers do what they do, like just creating the world and being so immersive. Or maybe it's like easier because I'm on the other side, like as an audience member, I could just like imagine like, okay, yeah, there's this world and I could like jump into it versus like you're the person in power creating that world with like that paintbrush. I feel like I would just be like too critical of myself that like I'm not like painting well enough. I don't know. But then I think that's just a common like human thing of like, you're so into it and you're the person that's like creating the world. Like you can't be immersed in the world you're creating necessarily. So I think that'd be like a weird thing for me. I think I just like entering people's worlds more so than creating them.
It's hard to be objective and to read this and think, I think this is sexy. Is this sexy? Like, because there's just in my head and it's not coming across. Like I was writing a scene earlier and I was like, this feels good, but how will people perceive it? And like the creepy, like anything that I think is creepy, I'm like, am I actually making this creepy enough to somebody external? Because the picture of what I'm seeing in my head is creepy, but I've got to communicate that. I mean, I always try and remember, like I'm reading CJ Tudor's book and part of me is just shaking my head like, oh, this is so good. And I keep reading bits aloud to Kev like, oh, she's amazing. But this is her final draft. Like, this is the finished book, and what I'm working on isn't a finish. And like, your first draft will be very far from a finished book, and that's what I try and remind myself. Like, the Mina books, the way I've approached them is they've really built up in layers. Like, the first draft is okay, maybe has something salvageable in it, and then the next draft, I never like start again. I was right on top of the original version, and the next one will just build a little bit more. And then now I'd say I'm like 80 to 90% finished now. It feels like a book. Like, anybody would read it, I think it's a book, but I know I've dropped some threads. There's like some stuff that happens later, and I'm like, I didn't see that enough early on, so I need to just go back and check, because it's for teenagers as well. I think I've got to remember that, like, it's not necessarily an adult reading it who's got loads of experience of horror and vampire books. Like, you've got to kind of make sure you're spelling it out enough, but also teenagers are really smart and like can figure a lot out, so it's getting that balance right. So yeah, I'm at that stage where it feels good. I think the first draft is the hardest with that inner critic, because she'll read it and sometimes think this is not good, and yet I need to just get it written because there needs to be something to edit. So have you written for publication before in terms of nonfiction, or is it more like stuff you do for fun? Or
Yeah, I've written it like professionally. I got my bachelor's degree in journalism, and I tried that out for a few years, but like 5 years before I transitioned into the world of history and then like history education, or I guess vice versa. So I think that just comes a little bit more to me. And then more recently, I've been really into just being in awe of like fictional authors and how they're able to like create their worlds. And like when I think back to Mina and the Slayers, because I very, very recently read that book, I'm just thinking about like how I couldn't guess any of like the twists and the turns, which is like always really fun about that book, because it's like a mystery, and I don't read a lot of mysteries, but that's fun because I think it's like a mystery, but the people in there really love all the things that I love. So it's like, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're like my friends. And then the world too, I feel like is like painted really well. And so those things, I look back, I'm like, it's very descriptive, very immersive. And I think me as a writer, I'm like really bare bones. I think that's how I've been trained. Just like say the thing, versus fictional writing is so different.
Yeah, see, I did a law degree and it was the same. It was like strip everything down and just say it really clearly and concisely in plain English. So writing fiction is a little bit like undoing some of 3 years of teaching. And sometimes I do just write a scene and it's mainly dialogue, and I end up having to go back and it's like, yeah, but that person is moving, that person is sitting down, that one's standing up. And then I get bogged down. I describe too much, and it's like he picked up the book with his hand and held it with his other hand. Like, stop telling me that you're holding it with a hand. I think the best advice I read on that is Stephen King said, "Don't tell us the grass is green." I always remind myself of that. Like, don't describe the brown wooden table. It's just got to be a wooden table. You know, like don't describe the white plastic front door in the UK. It's likely white unless you say otherwise. So I try, and it's a balance between those things. I think Stephen King advice is always good advice. And James Masters on Buffy actually said as well that he thinks Joss Whedon, his twists were surprising to people because he would do like the opposite of what people would expect sometimes. So he'd like play you so far and then he'd flip it, but do it so like and execute it really well. So I do sometimes do that. I think, what are people going to expect? And sometimes I'm going to lean into it. Sometimes I'm going to do the opposite. And then hopefully you never feel safe because you never know which one am I going to do. Am I going to play into the trope or am I going to not? I try and just, like, there's a couple of things in Mina 3 where my editor was like, Amy, no, what are you doing? And then a few paragraphs later, she was like, okay, it's fine. We're okay.
And like journey.
Yeah, so she saw the really early version of it. So it's good that even like the bones of the story are the same. And it obviously kind of has given us some feelings already. So that's why I aim for a little bit of a shock and a few twists. But I'm glad the twist got you. That always makes me really happy, because I know some people are going to guess some of them sometimes, but I like it if like one of them makes you go, "Ooh, that was good." Then
yeah, I think there's like 2 really big ones that were like big parts of the story, and then I think one of them I didn't even like see coming. I'm like, oh wait, I thought that was like I believed that because the characters believed that. And then we learned something totally different. And I'm like, oh, okay, interesting.
I'm trying to remember now. I'm like thinking, what twist is that? Because I'm rereading the second book now to check that I haven't like messed anything up in the third one. So it's quite interesting to reread it, because this book 1 I've read so many times because it was the first book, and I had to reread it for book 2 as well. But book 2, because I wrote it quicker, I haven't read it as many times. So I'm like, almost reading it like a first time reader. I remember what happens in it, but not the nitty gritty. So it's quite
I'm
fun.
referencing the Della, like the Della storyline.
Oh yeah. That was fun actually. I enjoyed that.
That one I was like, what?
Yeah, I'm
I
trying to
love
think
that.
how many. I don't think the third one's quite as twisty, but I think that some of the things that do happen, hopefully you'll be like, what?
But
So
the
yeah.
ending stressed me out of the second one because it's just like, oh, how annoying, like this. But it was giving me big, like, what's the Tom Cruise character in Interview with the Vampire?
Oh,
Lestat?
Lestat.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
giving like that's who I was like kind of imagining in that one really important role. But yeah, I'm just like, okay, nobody likes where they're at. So it's gonna be wild.
Yeah, well, hopefully this, because the third one being the cult, it does take you down a slightly different path too, so it's fun. It was fun doing the cult stuff, and like there's an angle that I haven't talked about publicly. It's like got the cult, but it's also got another thing linked to cults that was fun too, that I didn't actually expect until I started writing it. This thing just came in and I was like, oh, I'm doing that as well as cults. Okay, that's fine.
That's cool. You could
So,
bring
yeah.
all your favorite pop culture stuff into these worlds, which is really cool because again, I'm not like a big mystery person. I'm not reading like Agatha Christie or anything like that. But because those characters like embody so much of like what I really enjoy and they have like those cultural references and stuff, it's like really fun. Like it's really funny. The first first Mina book, it made me really want to watch Interview with the Vampire for the first time. And then the second one is referencing so much the book. And now I'm like, okay, I got to read that book now. Like it's just getting me all into vampires again and again.
Good. My friend ended up watching The Lost Boys with me because I referenced it in the second book. And I had this whole scene where they're on a carousel. And she's like, that's a reference to a movie. And I said, okay, right, we have to watch The Lost Boys now because you can't really appreciate that scene and also not have seen The Lost Boys.
Oh, yes, I love The Lost Boys. It's the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk is very, very local to me. So it has a
Oh,
soft
really?
place in my heart,
That's
yeah.
very cool. See, we drove past it and I don't think we actually stopped because I don't think I was as obsessed with it, or maybe I hadn't even seen it when we drove through California. I can't remember. Because we went from San Diego, drove really quickly through California and then up into Washington and Canada. So it was like a really quick trip. So through California, we had to just be really ruthless where to go. I'm still regret not going to the Buffy High School too, because it was really close to where we were and I just didn't know. I didn't know.
Where is that?
I don't remember. There's a few things have been filmed there, but specifically Buffy, and it still looks how it does. You can look it up. Yeah, just check whether it's anywhere near you. It'd be funny if like it was one of your local ones or something. Yeah, so when I go back, I definitely want to go to Santa Cruz, and I definitely want to go to the Buffy High School, just because I need to see it. I need to sit in front of that school like they did.
I'm looking it up. Sunnydale High.
Yeah, yeah. The real
One of these days I'll get into Buffy.
Oh no, you haven't seen Buffy. Oh, Lauren.
I know. You're like, it's in Torrance, so I think that's like LA area. So I don't think that's near me. I'm like Northern California. Like think like like 45 minutes south of like San Francisco on a day where there's little traffic.
Yeah, see, that's one place we did go. We went to San Francisco.
Yeah.
They had good cheesecake. So what was I going to say? Oh yeah, Buffy. So have you watched no Buffy at all, or have you tried it and not got into it?
I've never watched any of it.
I know,
Amy.
you're enjoying the Slayers and you've not seen Buffy. Okay, I feel like your homework before I see you next, you need to watch some Buffy and tell me what you think. Season 1, I would say, is a little dated now, but I still think it's really good. It definitely like gets into its strides. It goes through, and you're talking twists. Like there's so many good twists in Buffy. Oh, and things that like characters go down a certain path, and then it's great. It definitely takes you on a wild ride, and you need to watch it before somebody really spoils it for you, because at some point somebody's like, I could have easily been saying no.
Or maybe they already have. It went way over my head.
Yeah, possibly. That's very true. Okay, so I think it might be time to go to a sprint. Now we've had all the vampire talk, and I don't think I've mentioned this. I'm so tired tonight. I'm really sorry. I feel like I'm already repeating myself, and I'm not even at the first sprint. This is a bad start. So we're going to do a 40-minute sprint, a 40-minute sprint, and then a 30-minute sprint. So if you want to do all of them with us, Lauren, that's fine. If you want to like do a couple and then go about your day, also fine. Let us know in the comments what you're getting up to. Lauren will be reading, and I will be going upstairs to see if Small Person's gone to sleep, and then hopefully writing. So I'll turn my camera off for a little bit and then come back. So we will see you in. Oh, my computer's just jumping around. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Oh, my StreamYard just completely like refreshed, froze up then. That was really weird. Okay, I'm going to try and put the kitty. Okay, it's there now. I'll put the kitty on and we'll see you in 40 minutes. Hello. I can't believe that was 40 minutes. I spent most of it upstairs tending to a small person. How did you get on?
I know, it went by really fast. I went through because I had started the short stories in this book, and I went through it, and I just wasn't really like caring for it, which is sad because I just got finished telling you how much I was really liking this collection. So I just like quickly read it, and then I started another one that I'm liking a little bit more. So I'm in the middle of that second one.
Oh, that's good. That's the thing with anthology, isn't it? When it's good, it's really good. And you're like, how can it get any better? And then if there is a story that doesn't grab you, you kind of lose your faith a little bit. But then at least you know there's so many more to kind of try, and hopefully there'll be a good one in there for you.
Yes, I'm hoping the one I'm reading now is set within a Wales mansion that's like really old and dusty. And then there's like some tension between the couple that went there. So I think
Okay.
there's like something somebody isn't saying. So I'm curious. It has my curiosity.
Oh, that's good. Did you say they're all different authors that wrote this one?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, I don't know. I was going to say that's my favorite kind, and I think there's some that I really like. Like I loved Autumn Crow, Cameron Chaney's one that he wrote all of the short stories, and they're all kind of around the same theme, and I like that too. I think if an author does it really well, sorry, I've got phone reminders going off nonstop. I think if an author does it really well and it's the same author, then it's absolutely fine. I've got my phone and Kev's phone here, you see, so there's two lots of reminders. Let's see how people in the comments are doing, and then yeah. So as I was saying, before we do the comments, I did very little because I was upstairs. So I did a tiny bit of editing because my editors technically got Mina and the Cult, but I always do this like word repetition check. I don't know if when you're doing your more academic writing, are there certain like words and phrases that you rely on?
Yeah. So you do like a keyword search to make sure you're not like being redundant.
Yeah.
Is that the purpose?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, the copy editor is doing stuff like that as well, and then it'll go to a proofreader. So I figure that if I do a good check of that, and if she does a good check of it, by the time the proofreader gets it, hopefully all those crutch words that I rely on should be gone. Like I'm just doing a that search, and it's so interesting how the book is like 90-some thousand words long, and the word that is 1,000 of those words. So I'm just trying to cut some of the that's because you don't need every that. You know, if you're really happy that someone is there, or if you're just happy they're there, you can get rid of some of that. So I'm hoping to delete a few of that 1,000 and odd words. It's weird, isn't it? Though, as soon as you start unpicking sentences, they lose all their meaning. Like because like the word "the" you use all the time, and as soon as you notice it, it becomes really visible to you. So I don't recommend what I'm doing. It's not fun.
Yeah, it feels like you're very in the weeds. Like it's very micro editing.
Yeah, I mean, I have got some bigger stuff to do as well, and I tend to do things a bit backwards. I just do them in whatever order I want to do them. Because I mean, I am editing some stuff that might go at some point, but it's close enough now that I feel like I can, like you said, I can weed out the words that I don't need. Oh, it sounds very creepy, this one. Are they vampires? Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, I'm wondering. You never know though with stuff like that because it could be like some kind of like zombie type creatures. It's got to be something paranormal, I think. Oh yeah, the character count's a bit of a problem, isn't it, on here? Yeah, sneaking in Saturday one. Oh, I like your little avatar, Sharon. That's really cute. That sounds very nice. Evening.
I like the word cheeky because in American English, we never really use that term. So I love when I see it used.
So, do you not use the word cheeky at all, or do you use it in a different context?
No.
Yeah, cheeky. So cheeky is
really
a funny
part of
one.
American.
Yeah, like cheeky people say like a cheeky pint or like a cheeky bar of chocolate, like a kind of something you've sneaked in that's a treat. Or also you can say a child's cheeky, like if a child looks a bit mischievous and like they're up to no good, you can say, oh, you look cheeky. So I like it because it's a word, it has two kind of meanings, and they're both quite fun meanings. It's like sneaking something in or a mischievous person. So yeah, both fun. Oh, yay. How's it going, Karen? How many words have you written? I don't feel you have to share if you don't want to. I've never done NaNoWriMo because I'm always editing in November. I think I must work on a cycle, and like November is my editing month. I've never been writing a book ever since I found out about NaNoWriMo probably 10 years ago. I'm always editing in November. Like, what is that?
Oh.
So I always say maybe 1 year, and it never happens. They do one in, I think, April as well, and I did try that. this year, and then halfway through the month some edits came from my publisher, so I had to abandon it. So I've never succeeded. That sounds good. I love Scottish Island stuff. That song that starts a shout. Oh, what, to make everybody jump? I could. I think the cat makes people jump enough as it is. Excellent. Ooh, Pan Books of Horror. That sounds good. Have you heard of those, Lauren?
No, I never, because when I think of Pan, I think of Peter Pan.
Yeah, that's where my mind went too. Like,
No, I've never seen it.
Book.
They're British.
Oh, Sharon has them. I've never heard of them. I've obviously just missed those. I really want to read that one. Have you read any point horrors, Lauren, like back in the day or lately?
No. I have not gone into the point horror world. I have read Goosebumps when I was really young, and I like to read them here and there, like thematically if it matches things. So it's just like a good quick story. And then most of them are like available the full audio on YouTube. So it's just like super quick or through my library. And I think I've read like a couple, like a teensy bit of like Fear Street books. So I haven't gone over to the point horror land yet.
Yeah, I'd say point horror and Fear Street are quite similar. As a child, I used to think that Fear Street was scarier, and I don't know whether I just convinced myself of that psychologically, but I think they're fairly of a level. But Fear Street are all connected, aren't they? Like by the Fear Street setting, whereas point horror are just completely disconnected as far as I know, apart from the ones like there's the odd trilogy, like the Babysitter trilogy and the Forbidden Game trilogy. Yeah, I do remember I had The Body back in the day, and I have it now because I've collected all of them, so I probably should read that. Yeah, Cheeky Girls. They were a band that sang a song called We Are the Cheeky Girls. It was We Are the Cheeky Girls, We Are the Cheeky Girls, You Are the Cheeky Boys. I think they were playing on the bum cheek thing as well. Like they wore really short shorts. Lauren's like, what do British people listen to? Like, this is pop music? Like, I think they were on some reality TV show, like X Factor or Pop Idol or something, and then they released a single. So, yeah, normally our music isn't quite that interesting. I really want to read it, Sharon. I've just not got any time. I am really enjoying this, though. This The Gathering by C.J. Tudor. I didn't read any in that sprint, but it's really good if anybody's looking for an adult vampire horror. That is cool. That's a lot to get done, but I have faith, Karen, you can do that. I can't write like that because I have to write like a little bit every day to chip away at it, but I do like respect if people can block it aside the time. That's very, very good.
I had a question for you, Amy.
What's that? Sorry.
I have a question about, because it relates to like what you're talking about with like the writing. I was thinking the other day about writing books, funnily enough, and thinking about like, how do you like, do you like as a writer, do you have the whole story, like the arch or the arc, I should say, in your head, and then you just kind of write out an outline of how everything's going to go, and like, you know, 1, this is the scene, 2, next big event, 3, next big event, and then you go to then write everything out like you've been talking about, like, you know, trying to get that word count a day? Because I'm thinking like, do you like also create like character profiles where like you write out all like the Sims games where like you have like their interests and their backstory and their hobbies? Like, is that how you approach it? I'm always so curious about how you get to something so big, because I would feel like really overwhelmed by just going straight to the writing.
Yeah, so it's really different depending on the author. I've interviewed a lot of authors, and I always think of the extremes. So Melissa Welliver, who wrote My Love, Life and the Apocalypse, which is a YA dystopian, plots out every single chapter, and she writes like a 10,000 word outline, and then the book is 60 or 70,000 words, so she only has to flesh it out so much, and she knows just about everything. And then I interviewed Jonathan Stroud the other day, who was amazing. He was such a good interviewee, and he said that he always has a spark of an idea and writes a scene, and he doesn't know who those people are. He just writes this scene, like with Lockwood and Co. It was a boy and a girl who were ghost hunting, and he decided they would have cool equipment, and he knew nothing about the world, and he just fleshes it out from there. So I find it so amazing that he can start from one scene and just write and explore and discover. And she, like Melissa, writes a whole outline. I'm somewhere in between. I I knew the arc of each book. I knew the first book was going to be about Mina discovering New Orleans and herself and her relationship with her sister and getting a boyfriend and stuff. And then the second one was going to be a bit more about her figuring out like what she wants and what she wants to do as a job and things like that. And then the third one was always going to be about her family a little bit and about cults. And as soon as we figured out the STEM, I knew that. However, I didn't know who the murderer was going to be. I didn't know in this book, like there is a murderer storyline, as usually is in mine. And I didn't know that was going to be until I started writing. It took me quite a bit of figuring out. So I tend to plot so far and then just hit a brick wall and I can't see any more. And I just have to then start, and then I have to start plotting it out. And it's like I write a bit, I plot a bit. And like the opening sequence of Mina 3, they go somewhere and it's like a whole, like a self-contained story. And that I wrote really quickly and I could see it in my head and it hasn't changed that much. And other scenes, like there's still one that I'm really struggling with and I know it's still not doing what it needs to do. And that isn't coming until the late edits. I'm not figuring that scene out. So I think it varies writer to writer and it varies like inside myself as well. Like it's just different every time.
Okay, that's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that.
It's fine. I don't think I explained it very well because it's not a linear process for me. And I don't think I'm super efficient about it, but I just know it's the way I have to just keep going back through and combing through it and refining. And I think other people maybe, I don't know, because I'm with a smaller publisher, like I think there's more stages sometimes of the editorial process at a bigger publisher and more people will be looking. So I'm conscious that a lot more of it is on me as well. So I think I am like really rigorous with my checking and my husband does a lot of the checking. He's just come back up to this. I'm assuming Nathan's asleep. But yeah, so I have 2 rigorous checkers working on mine as well. So I'm very lucky to have a second pair of eyes. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, Scrivener I've tried. It's writing software where, unlike Word, where you just open it and type, it has like little like tabs that you can write stuff in, like character portraits and settings.
Ooh.
And it's pretty fun if your brain works in that way. I find it a bit overwhelming and I like everything being in a separate Word document. And back to your question about character, I don't do loads of character work because they pop into my head. Like as soon as I figured out that Mina had a sister called Libby, I just knew who Libby was. I could picture her girlfriend. I knew her girlfriend's name. It's really weird. Like it's like I've been simmering them in my brain and then they just pop out mostly how they are. And then I figure them out as the story goes on. Like in book 3, I mentioned Jared's family and I was like, oh, I mentioned somewhere that he has sisters, but like how many does he have? I've never actually thought about that. So I had to then think, well, who are his sisters? Like, and it's not even a big thing. They're not in the book. He just thinks about them. So I had to know. So I think I do keep discovering them. Like I don't know everything. But I suppose you don't. Like say you meet a person, like I don't know like what siblings you've got and stuff. Like we discover it as we know each other. And I feel a bit like that about characters. Like I get to know them. I'm like, oh, tell me, like, how many brothers do you have? Do you have any? No.
That's funny.
Yeah. So maybe people will notice stuff. Like, I don't know. I think as people read your books as well, they'll notice things. Some at the end of the trilogy, I bet somebody will say, you said in book 1 that he had 1 sister, and now you're saying he has 2. Like you got that wrong. So maybe my discovery approach will like catch me up at some point. So far, a book kicking nanny sounds fun. I like that. I do the same, Karen. I also get rid of characters if they're really not interesting and they're not functioning. Or like I had a character from book 2 in book 3. I won't tell you who it is in case you liked them, but they're just not in book 3 because I tried to put them in and they just didn't want to be there. So I was like, oh cool, you just don't be there for this one, that's fine. It was a really minor character. So oh gosh, that is so amazing. Like that huge developed world, he did the same thing as Jonathan Stroud, just from a scene. That's cool. Yeah, it to me too, Raymond. I'm definitely between the plotting out. I think I skipped a bit of something. Oh, I've lost a few comments. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go back a sec. Oh, so these were the Pan books. Apparently we're too young, Lauren. I think you're similar. Are you in your 30s, Lauren?
Yeah, I'm 30.
Yeah. Oh, so I am. I think we've had this conversation before. I'm the other end of 30 from you. We're in the same decade currently, but not for too much longer. Yeah, so we might not have heard of those 70s. Yeah, I was too little in the 80s to be reading. Starting gave weird Heidi vibes. Which one was that? I've got lost. I can't remember what that book that was. Oh, The Body. The Body is giving weird Heidi vibes. And Sharon agrees. Maybe I do need to read it. That sounds fun. Yeah, I could do to outline a little bit more. but I do, like I said, I get to that brick wall and I can't get any further. Yeah, that's a good idea, Sharon. I think, yeah, I tend to start with a setting, and then as soon as I've got a character, that is what propels the plot forward, and that's when the plot starts to come to me. I've never heard of that. I'm going to have to check that out. I started with Scrivener on my project before Mina and the Cult. I had like an in-between project, and I ended up going back to Word just because I couldn't. Scrivener has got loads of potential and loads of different functions, and I discovered I just want to open it and write. I don't want to use all the functions, so I went away from that. Yeah, I think everybody finds ways, don't they, that work for them.
Is it a paid program?
What, sorry?
Is it a paid program?
Scrivener, I think you pay like a fee to get it. It's quite cheap from what I remember because I bought it, and then I don't think you have to pay a subscription or anything. I think once you have it, you have it. And I don't know if they do a trial actually, where I think I did a free trial and then it sort of locks after that. But then when you pay, you can kind of unlock the material that you created. So yeah, it's worth trying if you are interested in doing the trial. Hi, thank you for coming on. So you've just come in time. We're going to do another 40-minute sprint, and then we'll have a little chat afterwards. So let us know in the comments. It's been a writery chat tonight. It's been interesting. Is that because it's NaNoWriMo? If you've got anything to say about writing or questions, let us know in the chat. And then if you want to tell us what you're reading too, that's great. And we'll see you in 40 minutes. Oops, didn't unmute myself. Hello. I just realised my camera was off for part of that. I think I turned it off because I was eating some really messy cake, and then I didn't put it back on because I could feel it getting all over my face, and I thought nobody needs to watch me eating this cake. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I ate some good cake. I've nearly got up to where I wanted to be in my edits. I wanted to get to page 150, and I'm up to about page 140. So in last sprint, I should be there, which is really good, considering that I had a bit of a slow start. Sorry, Kev, I'm just going across the screen. I'm wearing another pair of festive pajamas. I think the other day I had one with reindeer on, and today it's like nice red checked pajamas. So it feels like Christmas in our house.
What kind of cake did you have?
It was so Kev had a little Daddy and Nathan morning, and they went bowling and stuff, and they called it his mum and dad's house, and his mum had made these delicious chocolate muffins, and they brought one and a half for me. And I'd forgotten about them, so I thought, right, it's muffin time. Well, the little boy's asleep. I'm going to eat the remaining chocolate muffin.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it was very nice. Probably a bit late to eat it at like 8 p.m, but this is the time that I had, so I went with it. So how did your reading go? Did you read more of the anthology?
No, I decided to do some dishes because I was getting a little tired. I don't know, fatigued, weirded out. I don't know, in some way I was just like, I got to get off the couch. So I did start the audiobook, which is called Field of Screams. Mm-hmm. I got to the 10% mark, and I'm liking it. I'm just getting introduced to the character, and they made their way to the farm in Iowa, and then I did some dishes while I was listening because they were piling up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same in this house. It's really hard, isn't it? I think washing and dishes, it's so hard to keep on top of both of them. I don't know how people do it. So do you think that this is going to be a good one, this book? Has it given you a good feel for the beginning?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like I've become a little bit more discerning as I start to figure out like what I like, and especially like depending on the age group, there are certain things that I know are deal breakers. And if I get exposed to them early on, I'll be able to like DNF it probably really quickly. So for this one, it doesn't seem too young. It seems like it's pretty mature, and there's like some themes I feel like I could relate to, or at least they resonate. So yeah, I'm liking it. And she's a main character, Rebecca. She's really into like ghosts, and she goes to this farm for the summer that's like her family that they haven't had contact with for a long time, and she's just like kind of feeling like weird vibes, like something's off going on. So I think it's gonna be cute.
Yeah, I think the thing, it's weird, isn't it? Because like middle grade and younger books, like they're so far out of our experience now, aren't they? Like YA, I think I kind of age characters up in my head and stuff like that. I think like even my own characters, I think I sometimes imagine that, I mean, some of them are like 20-ish, so they are adults. But I think when I'm picturing them, I'm like, oh yeah, Jared's like Jason Momoa thing he's got going on is probably like being aged up in my head to nearer to the real Jason Momoa. Just because that's the age I am. But I think middle grade, you can't really do that because they're children dealing with children's experiences. So yeah, it can be a little, I think that's the only problem I have with middle grade. Sometimes I feel a bit alienated from it because I know it's like, I know YA isn't aimed at me, but I know that middle grade like definitely isn't aimed at me. So it's like got an extra hurdle to get over. So it has to take, like you said, that real like sweet spot of like spooky and cute and atmospheric is what I tend to go for. Like if it does that really well, then it has me. But if not, I'm like, oh, this is probably fine for kids, but it's just not for me.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the atmosphere I feel like is so like effective. I don't know why I can't articulate it. Maybe you can, but in YA or middle grade, I feel like just the atmosphere is there in ways that I don't feel like in the adult books I'm reading. I don't feel like it captures that as much. So I don't know what that might have to be because of.
Have you read any CJ Tudor books?
No, I haven't.
Because I feel like she does atmosphere really well. I would say maybe try The Burning Girls if you're interested in giving her books a go, because I think you would like the dynamic in that is like a mother-daughter who moved to a new town that's really creepy. And it's TV show now as well, which has just come out on Paramount in the UK. I'm not sure about the US. But she does atmosphere in a really YA way, I think. Like, as I was reading it, like, it is hard to pin down because, I mean, adult books can be super atmospheric too. But as I was reading it, like, this is definitely an adult. Like, I don't remember how old the woman is, but she might be in her 40s or 50s, the main character, maybe 40s. and she's a special kind of police detective, like that this world has. And yet the atmosphere just reminds me of YA books, like something to do with the pace and the voice, like feels very immediate, like I think middle grade and YA does, which I think is why I like her book so much, because adult books, you know, like I said, children's books can alienate me. Sometimes adult ones do it in that they are quite serious and gritty, and like a lot of the horror stuff seems to be quite steeped in things like grief, that I find quite difficult to read about. So I think that's why when I get an adult author who kind of seems to hit like a YA for me, I really like that. So yeah, I definitely, and I'll let you know about this one, but out of the ones I've read so far, I think The Burning Girls is my favorite.
Okay, I'll be able to check this one out. This one looks good.
And she's a female author too, and they tend to be quite female oriented stories, which I find quite refreshing with horror, because quite often I think a lot of the books I've really enjoyed have had like male main characters, and I like it when it's a woman and it feels a bit more like an experience, like being a mother, like in The Burning Girls. Like I understand her mindset, the character, in a lot of ways, not in every way. Nice, well done. I mean, auto spelling check and auto word count check are honestly such a saving grace for me when I'm writing. I'd make so many mistakes if I didn't have those two tools. Excellent. That's how generally that is one thing I usually know if I'm going to kill somebody off or not. And sometimes I start to get cold feet because I start to really like them. I am a bit brutal in Mina 3, so it's really difficult.
I thought Mina 2, that was pretty ruthless at certain parts. Oh, I just remembered the other twist we were talking about. The people who were like involved with like you always have like an overarching mystery that has very little to do with Mina and her friends, or like sometimes it does. Then there's like that part that more like the sub mystery that then connects it to Mina, and that's like how she gets involved and stuff. So like the larger one that ends up being connected to her, I didn't see who ended up being like responsible for that at the very end. I was like, ooh, this is so good. So I feel like when you think about getting people that are not mystery people involved in that, I think again my gateway was like the atmosphere in the book, being able to like create that world. And then I try to think about, I think I got on this train of thought because like the whole killing off, I remembered, I thought back to Mina, I was like, who did not make it through? And then I realized it was pretty like vicious in the second one versus the first one. I feel like it was, at the end of it, I was like, oh, she went there.
I think it's even more vicious the third one. I'm really sorry. I'm just trying to think of like the body count.
I'm ready for it. It's good.
Yeah, it's quite high. And it's high, like I think book 2 is a high one, and you don't necessarily know who some of the people are. And this one, like there's probably characters that you know. And I introduce new characters, which I think is really important in series, because you need new like dynamics, and you need new people to be suspects and new people to be victims, and new people to like join the long-term group. So that's always fun, I think, introducing characters and seeing what people think of them, because I really liked the trio of siblings that I introduced in the second book, Will and Nat and Sam. That was really fun. And then in this one, I don't really want to say too much, but like the cult community, I introduced some new characters that I really like, and then some that you haven't seen that much, you get to see a little bit more, so that's fun too. Like there's one character in particular, and I will say it, the mom has been a bit like, because she's so elusive in the second book, and she kept trying to be elusive in the third book, and I was like, no, you need to actually be in it now, come on, like give me something. Because in the first draft, like as a character, I wasn't getting much out of her, and I'm getting there now where she's like being in it when she needs to be. But that was hard because she's elusive. She just kept disappearing on me, and I was like, come back, I needed to be in this scene. So yeah,
I'm so curious.
Yeah, I hope people enjoy it. It's been hard work. I think each book seems to have got harder because I feel like I've set up all this stuff that I need to like pull off now. I don't know, like my standards are getting high for myself too. Each time I'm like, I want this to be better, I want this to be bigger, and it can only go so far, can't it? Like Scream, at some point these movies have to plateau, don't they? And I can't keep upping the ante forever, otherwise nobody will be left. Everybody will be dead or a vampire. You know. Oh, I've already read that one. Oh, interesting. Almost the same title. I haven't read that one. Yeah, I don't know what that one's about, whether it's a similar plot too. It's interesting if it is. Yes, Sharon loves this one, but that has a child abduction in it, so I stopped reading it straight away. So I haven't read the other people. I don't know if that one might have a different name in the US. I think it might be called The Taking of Annie Thorne. I think.
It's interesting how they changed the names. I know covers are very different sometimes, well,
Yeah.
often, but I don't know the titles too. That sounds a bit too much to keep track of.
Yeah, I know most of her books have the same title in the UK and US, so I nearly bought that one thinking it was a different one, and then I started reading the blurb and I was like, no, I've already DNF'd this book, so I'm not going to buy it again.
Not again!
And it was just the child abduction thing. It seemed really good, but I just couldn't deal. It felt a bit like, oh, one of my worst fears in a book. I haven't read The Drift yet, so I can't come out on that one, but that is a wintry one, I think, so that might be a good one to try as well. I do have a copy of it, but I've not read it yet. Oh, so that is the Burning Girl as a crime thriller. D.I. Thompson. That name rings a bell. Have I read any of these? Oh no, it's a series. I may have read some of those. Okay, so it's getting late here. It's 9:45, so I think I have time to do a half an hour sprint at the end. Are you okay for another half an hour, Lauren?
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. So we will catch with you at the end. This is the last sprint, everyone. I'm just setting the timer, and we will see you on the other side. I don't know what is happening to the time tonight, but it's been so quick. That's it, the last sprint.
Yeah, that went fast.
Yeah, I suppose it was a little bit short, that one. So how did you get on?
So I was able to, I went back to this one right here, and I was able to finish that short story. And then I wanted to make sure I started the other one, because like starting short stories is always like, starting any book, it's always a hurdle, like to get used to the characters and stuff. And that's all you're doing in an anthology or short story collection. But I didn't dislike it. I thought it was like, okay. At least it wasn't like the story before it where I was like, this is very boring. I'm just gonna like skim through it. And then the other one, I'm not like enraptured by it when I just started, but I'm hoping that it picks up a little bit, because there are like 4 more stories left in the collection.
I suppose you can internally DNF, can't you, with an anthology if you really need to as well. Like if you're not feeling it after a few pages, or you can leave that one and come back to it. I have on a couple of anthologies, like just kind of skips a story and then I try again maybe another time, and if I still don't get into it, then that's kind of thing, that one's not for me.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm learning that it's okay. I could still, like, even if I didn't read that full story, or I don't even read that story at all, if I've read the majority of them, like I read it.
Yeah, I try not to just judge myself on any of that stuff anymore. I know what you mean, and like I used to try not to DNF books for that reason, because like I wanted to add one more book to the total, and it's like, well, there's so many books to read that I could be reading instead of that one.
That's my biggest thing when I think about like a DNF, like contemplating it. It's like, yeah, there's like, life's just way too short. There's like so many books that I'm eager to read. Why would I waste my time on that? Even if it's audio and it goes faster than physically reading it.
Yeah, exactly. Like Stephen King, when I think of how many books he's written that I want to read, like I'm sure I'm probably not going to get around to all of them. So like, yeah, just think about that one kind of not as great book you're reading. You could be reading something a lot better. I'll Take You, Fanny Thorn is a different book. Maybe I got confused by the title, that it was also about an abduction. Anyway, so child abductions, no from me, whichever ones we're talking about. Oh, so that was from the D.I. Tom Thorne books. Do you like a very evil villain? Yes, I do. So people always say that they like my cliffhangers, which is great, because I'm like, oh, I did a good thing there. But then I feel worried that every chapter has got to be a brilliant cliffhanger. And I don't think it does. I just think it's got to be satisfying, like in some way, like it's got to feel like a story completed to me. Was saying that I've nearly finished this book, and I'm still like, I just the other night went through and I'd got 5,000 word chapter, and most of my chapters are about 1,500 to 1,200, so it was like double length it needed to be. So that does happen even late on into my drafting. I try and end it in a good place if I can as I'm going along, but if I don't, that's an editing problem. So I just kind of try not to worry, Adrian, just think I can fix this in the future, get to the end. If you're struggling, end it where it is now, because it might be that a future edit gives you like a better twist or a better moment to end a chapter on. Hello. Excellent. A lot of people seem to be reading that at the moment. Love and Olives is a cute title. Woohoo! Nice. That is amazing. 5,000 words. That's so good. Oh, as in total. I was just thinking 5,000 words in... No, 1,000 words. I mean, 5,000 words tonight. Maybe possible, but not for me anyway. Some people I invite on. That is very cool. I mean, I feel like streaming services wise, I don't tend to watch TV now. So I like, there's always something on because I have several streaming services. Yeah, I never see, especially when I'm at work, I seem to always leave half-finished cups of tea around just because I get distracted and then it's cold before I know it.
Relatable.
So yeah, that was really good tonight. Thank you, Lauren. I feel like you've kept me going when I was feeling a bit tired and demotivated. It was quite energizing to talk to you. I was just saying that to Kev. Lauren's really nice to talk to. Like, you're very energizing and like positive.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I think it helps, and I'm like a huge fan of your work as you're writing on things that are like the work I like. So
thank
I'm
you.
sure that's really
And
helpful.
I suppose it's daytime for you, so you are like at a more energized point of the day to me. So I appreciate that. You're giving me like your lunchtime energy.
Yes.
I'm on my bedtime energy levels right now. That is amazing. 5,000 words since yesterday. So booking a week off, you can probably get this thing done, Karen. That's brilliant. Oh, cute candy cane blankets. Yes. I'm very impressed.
I
Your
love
aesthetic is always impeccable, Lauren. I feel like you just seamlessly shift from spooky to cute, cozy, festive. I'm very
It's one of my hobbies.
Yeah, I need some festive blankets because I think I'm fully covered. Like I've got the full spooky collection of like this is Nightmare Before Christmas one. I don't know whether you can see the Jack wearing his like jaunty summer hat. So I need to get. I think I've got one Mickey Mouse Christmas one that my son loves, and I did eventually like prize it out of his hands and put it with the Christmas stuff in the summer. I was like, we can't have a blanket in summer. We can't have a Christmas blanket in summer. Double no. So yeah, I have got that to look forward to come out. But I'm loving the candy canes. I think I need some candy canes.
I love candy canes too.
I just bought some real ones too. So I'm excited about like tucking those into people's presents. I do that some years, and then other years I sort of forget. But yeah, this year is going to be a candy cane year. Everybody who gets a present from me gets a candy cane too.
Yeah, I just picked up some too. I like the cherry ones, and then I think I like the blueberry ones too. I think peppermint I only really like if it's in like a drink, like a hot drink. I typically like a cherry berry kind of thing.
Yeah, cherry ones are good. I ended up with peppermint just because that's what my 3-year-old picked, even though he's not really allowed to eat them. I've said he can have a lick of one. They're a bit too hard for a small person to eat.
Yeah,
I think I might have them. I don't know, a commercial. Watch out, there's a Humphrey about. I'm not very good at remembering a commercial from decades ago. I'm not the person for that. I don't have a good memory for these things. And even back in the day, I used to record stuff so that I could fast forward adverts if I could. So. Oh, Sharon knows. It was a milk advert. Well done, Sharon. I mean, that's what I would be like, Karen, if with my like 500 to 1,000 words a day habit. About 1,000 words is what I aim for when I'm drafting, just because I've got an hour or two a day to write in generally. So yeah, you'll do it. I don't listen to your tracker, listen to me. I think you can do it. And on that note, let's go to bed if we're in the UK, and then we can let Lauren go about her day. Thank you so much for chatting with us as ever. It's been really nice. And I don't know when I'm next sprinting. Kev, do you know when we're next sprinting? Kev thinks maybe Tuesday. So if you want your sprints on Tuesday, have a look. Definitely Thursday next week. And then I'm doing random other days. So just keep an eye on my channel for that. We do have the chat coming up for Big Bad Me, which will be lovely in a couple of weeks. The Y Book Club pick for this month. I think that's all my updates. So I will leave you all for the night. Good night, everyone. Thank you.